How are you doing, guys? ZDEyE here. So today I wanted to make my full review for Forspoken. Now, I already have made my first impressions for this game and they were relatively positive, but of course, like I said in that video, I had some gripes with this game, unfortunately. And again, they are the same. They do remain, even though I finished the story, I finished the game, and I've did a lot of side activities as well, some of the end game, side stuff too. But, everything that has been already mentioned regarding the negatives, unfortunately, they stay the same. So, I want to get through all of the positives, and then I'll mention some of the negatives within this game. I'll go in the respective order. So, one of the pros, or one of the good things regarding if it's combat, it genuinely is very fun. And eventually as well, it gets even bigger, more hectic as well. And perhaps maybe I'll mention a little bit of between if it's actually negative or positive. I think it might be a little bit overwhelming. I think that there's so many button combos that you can do within this game in terms of the combat. It could be overwhelming for a lot of people, especially when you start out playing this. You got no idea what in the world are you supposed to do. On top of that, another maybe negative or positive, I'll say something between. The amount of skills or abilities that you get within this game are ridiculous. To the point it's just, okay, this is too much. I have to learn all this again and again and again. It's just happened so often, I felt like, at least to me. And of course, it's a scary thing, but it looks so good though. And on top of that, the effects, some of the best and around the business. Seriously, it's just genuinely is incredible, beautiful to look at in terms of its combat. Now, another positive, definitely a big positive. I absolutely loved the traversal, the running, the animations, the parkour that Frey does. It's genuinely a beauty to look at. It's just so much going on within that world that you check out, like, oh man, I want to go there, I want to go check out that spot there, let's get there. And that journey going from point A to B while looking at Frey, how she does her parkour movements is genuinely incredible. I was about to say similarities to like Spider-Man parkour enjoyment, but again, I don't believe that it might be that close. Again, guys, I have to clarify this again. I'm strictly talking about the parkour system of getting from point A to B, of that animations and how Frey runs towards her objective. That's just one thing. Okay, now I'm not a positive. I definitely have to mention this. I love the big bosses battles. They're actually a spectacle to be a part of. Like, there's so much going on and it felt like you're a part of something bigger, grander world, and it's just incredible. On top of that, another positive thing, I have to include it in here. I love the spells. They look so fantastic, it's over the top, and on top of that, they feel, when you start at the game, you feel like you're so underpowered, you can't really do much damage, but when you start up using these spells and you get to learn the abilities, oof, this is just out of this world for sure, and you clearly are. It's just incredible. Especially there's sometimes, and unfortunately I'm gonna have to say this sometimes, there's very good music too. Sometimes, because the reason I'm saying sometimes, because I didn't really notice of the tunes that were oh man, it's so memorable, I want to listen to it, because it wasn't on the same par, for example, like Death Stranding for me, right? The music that literally stands out and you just cannot help but to wonder. But there are incredible tunes in their soundtracks that genuinely have to be mentioned, and that's why I'm mentioning it in here. Another thing as well, as actually has a decent sense of progression, that you genuinely are getting stronger, and I think the way it kind of progresses, it does wonders. It does a very good job as well. You genuinely become stronger and you see how different you become as well, in terms of the sense of progression, nothing else, nothing more, nothing less though. And another good thing I definitely want to mention, there's some good accessibility settings that you can actually have. For example, when you're running through the world, you don't have to constantly press one specific button to pick up some objectives or whatnot, and you automatically pick them up, like say maybe flowers or some leaves and stuff like that, and you just run by them and you automatically grab them. thank you for having this within this game. It was genuinely a needed feature. So it does not slow down your movement, and that's a nice touch for sure. And there's also another thing, for example, you can dial down in terms of the dialogue having within the world, so you don't kept to repeating the same thing again and again and again. So I think it's actually a nice touch, especially considering what you do within this game. Okay, well, these were pretty much the positives. Let's get into some of the negatives. Okay, I'm gonna have to say them. Unfortunately, there's a lot of characters that are they're just not good. They're quite dull, they're boring, they're dreadfully dull characters, unfortunately. I had no remittance, I had no connection to them, you know what I mean? Like, even from the start of the story to the end of the story, I just did not care about these characters. They were boring to me. They're like kind of felt disjointed in a lot of cases, and just genuinely not that interesting, unfortunately. Oh, okay, well, I'm gonna have to mention this. The storytelling is not good in terms of, like, it felt a little disjointed, especially Frey. I think she may be the biggest problem. She's so constantly curses all the time, and I mean, I don't mind cursing. It's fine. Like, I occasionally do it sometimes too, but like the way she does it, just practically every sentence, she hates everything. Her mission is to come back to home world, to New York, and she wants to get out of this place. She's sick of it, and she can constantly bringing it back up. Okay, we get it. Shut up. Like, you're working towards your objective, so shut up. And just like get out of the way, it's fine. But she complains about it again and again and again. I hate that in terms of people when they keep on doing the same thing again. It's becoming repetitive, annoying, and it's genuinely, I started rolling my eyes, and I hated that. Okay, side quests. I have to touch on that. I'm sorry, even though there's so many side quests, but unfortunately there are some mind-numbing side quests. They're just not that good, unfortunately. And that's including, mind you, because of the side quests, open world clutter. That's a big problem. Open world clutter. There's so much within this world. But unfortunately, it's a Ubisoft style checklist thing to do. There's copy and paste things to do. And oh man, there's so much that could have been done here in the right way, but I feel like they haven't done a good job in terms of having variety within their, open world elements. And same goes for the side quests. There are some interesting side quests that you can do, but unfortunately there are very few and far between. So, okay, well, I'm not sure if this is a negative, even though I put it in here, maybe it is. I can notice that this game kind of starts out a little slow. Maybe perhaps it takes like about an hour or two to actually finally start playing in the open world and actually getting your hands-on experience and seeing what this game has to offer. So I wanted to mention in here, but like I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing. Okay, well, there are a few aspects as technical issues. I'm not really having too many issues of terms of the performance, but the resolution might be a little bit of a problem. Even though this is indeed a beautiful world, but because of the technical issues, I'm noticing that this world, with its resolution, it tends to go way low then it's pretty much acceptable. It felt like it goes all the way to 720p, and that's when it really tends to look really rough. Just some things that I feel like hasn't been done properly in terms of this engine, or something going on. It's hard to explain, and yet I'm just thinking, like, what is going on here? Why does this look bad? And yet this auto moment, it looks fantastic. It's very weird. Okay, well, yeah, like I said, settings in terms of the startup settings and the defaults, the triggers and settings, like, can actually, it's not very comfortable. Maybe you can do some settings adjustments, and that's why I have mentioned in my previous videos that I saved my wrist while playing this game while using a DualSense Edge controller, because you can actually remap the buttons properly into your back triggers. And I'm just curious to see if there was any settings, because I ended up not changing the settings. I just kept them as the way they were. And maybe you can change the button layout, but I want to mention that because, this is the thought out default trigger, default settings for the button layout. So I'm not sure if that was actually intentional, but there's just some kind of questionable decisions that were made. Maybe it was not really thought out, But again, it's not really a big deal because maybe you can still change in the settings, and still you can actually change in the settings overall. Even if you do not have a DualSense Edge controller, you can just do that. So that's why I'm not going to mention this as a purely on the negative side, but something between. And now in terms of the story, okay, I'm not going to mention anything spoilers, so do not worry. I'll be honest. At the beginning, the impression of like how the story starts, and I was actually quite disappointed because the dialogue, it was pretty bad. It genuinely is. But then afterwards, you know, as the story progressed through, I started kind of liking it a little bit more, but not the characters, like I said before, but I liked the way it kind of ended. It was genuinely so many, like not so many, but there were some plot twists I didn't really expect it. Interesting. So I would not really expected the story to actually make any sudden kind of differences in terms of the changes, or like something like surprising, genuinely surprising, not as a forced factor, but genuine surprise. And it did surprise me, and it didn't really feel like it was forced. I think it's a positive. I genuinely do. But again, overall though, the story, it's not that good. And so guys, you know, if I would have to give it a score, it's genuinely a 6 or 7 out of 10. You know, good days a 7, 6 is just, you know, more realistic score. It's not to say that game is bad. It's definitely is not a bad game. It's not. I play far, far, far worse games than this. But, you know, this game has some incredible redeeming factors. Combat, incredible traversal, beautiful world. Well, at certain times there is definitely some problems with that, but still it's nice. Some interesting music choices as well. Very good, nice touches of the accessibility settings that you can have in here too. Incredible spells with the effects going on. Just like genuinely beautiful spectacles that's going on in terms of its big boss battles too. See, like, it's not to say the game's bad, it genuinely is not, and I had my fill with this game. And yet, I'm still considering if going for a platinum trophy on this game as well. But we shall see and wait. I want to mention one other thing, guys, that this game, I never purchased it. I was not even considering getting it because, like, I was a little bit disappointed of seeing, you know, marketing and what's going on with this game at the beginning before its release. And then yet, one of the very, very nice people from Square Enix, Luminous Productions, and Fourth Floor Creative for providing the code for Forspoken for me. I was genuinely surprised at receiving this email from them and actually giving me a chance to play this game and doing a proper review and a little bit of a coverage for this game. And, you know, of course, there has to be a little bit of a bias towards this game because of it, right? But like I said, like I shared in this review, there are problems. I'm not gonna ignore them because I actually got this privilege of receiving a code, because I genuinely want to share my critique and I would like them to be resolved, or, you know, some ways maybe even improved or changed around. And if I have the power of doing that, I would like to use it. I would like this game to be in a better spot, and perhaps in the future, if they choose to continue with this game and improve it, maybe come up with DLCs or updates, maybe even a sequel. Don't know if it will happen now, of course. I mean, that would be good. That would be nice, because this game genuinely has a potential, and I'm definitely seeing that, and that's why I have mentioned all the positives, some of the negatives, something a little bit of a between as well. And I hope this game will have its turnaround and goes for the better. Well, that's all I got for today. Do let me know what you think about this game overall. Like, by the way, I have to mention this, guys. I know a lot of you have not picked up the game, and you're saying this game is awful, it's trash, just delete it, get rid of it, why did you even play it? I'm sure there's some people like that, just straight out negative going in towards it. Well, you have to understand one fact, that there were far worse games. Like, generally, just developers did not care what they did with their games. And this game is not that. This game is not that. This game is average, it can be above average for a lot of people too, for me like it was. But yet, you know, I'm not gonna deny the fact that this game had something going for it, and it definitely did. It is an incredible experience if you get your time within this game, and hell, maybe in fact, if you like Isekai, you like this experience, you like this game too. It definitely is a possibility. Alright, like and subscribe, see you guys all later, and have a wonderful day.